I figure I'll do this now because it'll be way funnier with Ben not here to defend himself. Ben's not here. He's still dealing with internet stuff on his end after the move last week. So the last day he needed to get out was on Sunday, and there was a number of things that went wrong that day. Ben, at like 9 o'clock in the morning, I had to go to urgent care because I tore open my thumb. His roommate fell and tripped and messed up her knee at one point during the day. So it was a stressful day, and we didn't finish until like 1:30 in the morning, probably closer to 2. It got to the point where we still had a load to do at like 12 o'clock. And at 12 o'clock, Ben's roommate asked us to go pick up more garbage bags. So we go over to the gas station that's not far from the old place that he used to stay at. And he walks out with one of those giant iced coffee cans. And I'm like, this will not end well. I have never in my life... It was like babysitting someone that just took cocaine for the first time.
Did he do this? I mean, who amongst us hasn't been there? Did he
It was at
did
midnight.
he drink that at midnight? Yeah.
At midnight.
Oh, no.
At midnight. And by 12:15, he was zooming. He was so loud and speaking so fast and so excited and running around at the new place.
We should preface this with, once again, Ben doesn't drink coffee. Ben doesn't consume much caffeine at all.
He's a straight edge kid, and it's a problem. And I've actually been with him the last 3 times that he's drank coffee. I never was there as he drank it and saw the full process. And multiple times through it, he's like, I'm annoying Jay so bad. I'm like, Ben... On the way back to the apartment, he says that again, and he's playing the most chaotic music humanly possible. Good music, but chaotic as And he said, I'm annoying you again. I'm not trying to annoy you. And I said, Ben, you're not dealing with tired Jay tonight. You're dealing with Jay holding someone's hair back as they puke in the toilet at 3 a.m., Jay. So it's like, I had lost a lot of blood that day. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. He was basically high, and it was ridiculous. And I want to get that Ben on the podcast, but I also never want to see him drinking coffee again after that particular experience. He got back. He had to go back and get stuff for their fish because we had forgotten it. He came back. He was still fucking zooming all over the place. It was ridiculous.
I had more money, because how fucking funny would it have been for me to have flown out to help with the move, and then us just record like a podcast while we're in the process of moving?
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, the podcast in which you watch one Star Wars movie every week forever. This week, The Empire, it has struck back. Chris, how's your watch?
It was fine. It was Empire. I just had the saddest fucking realization ever, and I don't know why it just hit me right now, but I think I'm going to bring a whole lot of people down right now. Do you realize, because of Ben not being here last week, that was our first episode since we started this fucking thing of no pod racing mentions?
Yes, I remember. I was there.
The streak was broken. For whatever reason, this literally just occurred to me as you were introing the podcast.
I mean, there's a lot of episodes where he definitely missed it.
I don't feel like he has.
I have records of it. I remember very distinctly early on he would miss a lot of episodes, and I have records of every time he brings it up.
Oh yeah, you did do a compilation.
And he misses episodes. He does. Yeah, for a compilation I'll never make, because these pod racing mentions have gotten way more elaborate and way longer, and I can't fit it into the format that was hilarious to me anymore.
We already have the one. I don't think we need multiple. God, it's just been pod racing compilation part 2, part 3, part 4.
That was the plan. That was the original plan, but I don't know. I would have to rethink how I make them.
Jay, how was your watch?
It was fine. It was the first time I've watched the movie all the way through while at home in one watch in quite a while. Last week I mentioned I watched the movie twice because I watched it at home on my way out the door, and then Ben had to watch it, and so I was there with him. And Ben's roommate was totally confused as to why we were watching it when we didn't have to record. I'm like, recording or no, we're stuck with this. It's just the way it
Wasn't
is.
here. What was it, about a month ago? I missed, or well, no, I didn't know.
I don't know
I
what
don't
you're
know what you're
talking
talking
about. You
about.
were definitely here.
But yeah, even if we're not here, we watch the
You
movies. That's
gotta
how it
watch them both.
works, you know.
Ben's roommate is so confused by this
Well,
podcast.
look, to be
Just
fair
like
to her,
flabbergasted.
and to be fair to most people, like I don't, the very small audience that we have, I don't know how many of them actually believe that we've continued the bit and we haven't cheated. You all don't understand how legitimately committed to
Never
this
once.
dumb bit we are.
We have never once cheated.
I have
Never once. I have
so
watched.
little time in my life these days, and I still go out of my way to make sure I watch these dumb fucking movies every week.
I'm sure, as far as like sitting down and paying attention, we've cheated in small ways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scrolling on my phone occasionally, or I'm dealing with being thrown up upon these days.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, they're on, and we're consuming them. I mean, it's not like,
Yeah.
I mean, God,
And it's consuming us.
honestly, like once I tried to like play it on my phone on Disney Plus and like play a video game or something on the TV. Well, I couldn't do it. I was like, this doesn't feel right. So yeah, it's on the TV.
I've tried that. I've tried that too, and it's just kind of like I feel like I'm totally cheating here. There have also been times where I'll go downstairs and like not pause the movie because I'm like I'm just getting a drink and coming back up, and I end up downstairs for like 10 minutes. I come back upstairs and I stare at the TV. I'm like, I have to rewind, don't I? I mean, I don't have to, but I really should.
I feel like it was. I think it was the last time I watched Revenge of the Sith with my wife. You know, we watched it together on one of the rotations, and I like got up to go to the bathroom, and I paused the movie, and she was like, "Are you kidding me right now? Why are like what?" It's like, no, no. Preserve the integrity of the process.
I call it the 3 minute rule. If you're out of the room for 3 minutes, you can get away with it, but anything over that, you better fucking rewind.
Yeah, no, we are stupidly committed to this bit.
It's physically painful how committed to this bit we are. We do not cheat, gang. We do not fucking cheat. We should,
Should,
but
but
we
we
don't.
don't, and we won't.
We, we have friends that are literally devils on our shoulders that tell us to cheat all the time, or at least I do. And it's like, no, I can't do that. I every time I've watched one of these movies at Ben's place, his roommate has been like, "You don't have to do this, or you could do it." Like, and it's like, no, we're devoted to
It's
it.
been brought up quite a bit now how much Ben's roommate is like baffled by the fact that we're actually doing it
Yeah,
and not just like
Ben's
cheating.
roommate rocks, but Ben's roommate rocks, but she also does not get this, and that's fair.
That's incredibly
Like,
fair. I
I've become real close with Ben's
I
roommate. One of my favorite people on the planet. She does not get this show. She does not get it, and that's okay.
I explained it the other day accidentally to a coworker, at which this coworker now has been listening to the show, and so there's that, and I have apologized multiple times to him. He's like, "No, it's great. I love it." I was like, "Why?"
From the beginning,
Yeah, yeah. He went back to
that's
the beginning. That's
horrifying.
what I said. Um, I was like, "Don't do that. Don't waste your time." Like, I can't stress to you enough how much you don't want. It's a bad show. It's a bad fucking show.
Yeah, it's a man will literally fall down a bottomless pit instead of going to therapy. Is my first note from last time that we didn't bring up because we got obsessed with making fun of a guy. Um, these are the kind of notes I have now. This has been a rotation of bad notes and me just pointing out my bad notes.
That's a very true. Now, look, I think I've brought it up on I've said some variation about a dozen times at least since we started recording this show as a joke of like, when I get a new therapist or when I find a new therapist or whatever. And it's been 2.5 years, and I have not. And I probably won't anytime soon.
Not fun fact. I've had the same therapist quit twice
And it's
on
the
me.
wildest fucking thing. It's the wildest
I had her
thing.
at one place, and I had 3 really good sessions with her, and then she left, and she left me the information to follow her to the new place. And I went to like 3 sessions there, and then I missed a phone appointment, and I tried to get a hold of them several times to try to reschedule it, and they never got back to me. So I went into the office for my already scheduled next month one, and she was gone. The person at the desk said, no, she's left. She was supposed to get hold of all of her patients. So they gave me another therapist, and I'm like, I'm going back to the old place. I'm not.
Now,
I am.
now, Jay, can I ask you an important question in regards to this therapist quitting 2 times?
Yes.
Did you bring up the
2 times.
podcast to this therapist?
Never once. Never once.
Because holy shit, would that be hilarious? Like, you bring up this podcast and your therapist is like, I can't.
So, yeah, I've had 2 therapists quit on, or I've had one therapist quit on me twice. And I never brought up the podcast to her, but I blame the podcast. and let me be clear. The entire pandemic has been a nightmare for public therapy and psychologists. No, it doesn't seem like anywhere you go, anyone stays more than 6 months. So I don't blame her or anything like that. But it's a very funny bit to bring up. It's very funny.
I'm actually very fortunate that the company I work for has this great like health program where they offer us like 6 or 7 free therapy or counseling sessions or whatever through like our job benefits. Then you can do in person, online, whatever. Just haven't done it. I'm lazy. I prefer, to have my mental breakdowns in the privacy of my own home, like a goddamn American.
Well, I don't have my mental breakdowns at the therapist. I have my mental breakdowns at home, and then I talk about it.
Yeah, but I like, I like to keep them real close to the vest. Just,
Hi, welcome to Mental Health Every Week Forever.
I'll burden people with all this. Just keep it inside like they did in the old country.
That's their job, Chris.
Well, they would knowing my secrets would be used against me.
I don't want them knowing my secrets. Christ. Christ almighty.
But no, I am very excited to get a new therapist at some point and bring the show up. It's gonna be a really good time.
I haven't.
Because I've been to therapy before, and it's usually me doing what I do with everything else and just making jokes the entire time, and the therapist being like, "Are you aware you use humor as a deflection method?" I'm like, "You're absolutely right, I do."
Are we cool to be talking about this on the show? Is it...
The show is my therapy. Hello, audience.
Hello, audience. You're watching therapy happen before your eyes. For what? Who knows?
Third consecutive breakdown of the week. Man. Empire's a good movie, though. Empire's like the one movie in the fucking 9-movie rotation that, like, every single week there's at least a couple of moments where I'm, like, engaged. And part of that is podcast's fault because we have ruined that dinner scene so thoroughly that I get so excited every time.
See, that I love the Empire dinner scene so much, but I have never like gotten excited for it because everything that's great. I said this last rotation. It literally I think became the episode title. Everything that's great about that scene is all in my head. Like it's all.
But like, and that's as the one who originally brought this scene up, it truly, and I said it then, it remains the same after all these rotations. It's my favorite scene in the Star Wars franchise because it's always one that's just inherently funny to me. I know I'm the only person on the planet who looks at that scene. Well, I've now ruined it for the two of you, I guess, as well. But, like, I know for years I was the only person who looked at that scene and found it as funny as I did.
and the 8 people that follow us that can never look at that scene the same way again.
Mm-hmm.
Or the 90 people that checked out the Downtime Dark Papa Palp Super Hour #1. Will there be a #2? Probably. At some point when I'm not lazy. I put enough work into this show.
I love how every once in a while, like, you'll go back and forth between, like, I'm not doing this fucking thing for this, and then, like, calling yourself lazy, you know? I'll get to it when I'm not being lazy. It's like you have two modes. One of them is, like, just,
I have go mode and lazy mode.
yeah. Yeah, but
You
you
want
have,
to
like,
know
hard on
my...
yourself mode and fuck this podcast mode, where you're like, you'd be doing more work for this
you want...
podcast, and then fuck this podcast, I do enough.
No, those both are my moods at all times. And you want to know what the laziness is defined by? What other things I'm excited about. If I'm like I've been doing a lot more gaming that I missed like most of a generation of gaming because I didn't have any money. I still kind of don't, but I'm wasted a little bit of money on it. Last couple of years I've been getting back into it, but especially lately. And there are times where I'll be sitting there and playing a game, and I'll think, I really should be editing an episode. And I get real grumpy about it. But yeah, I don't... I think milestones are when I'm the most productive, because I have a go mode when we hit a milestone, or when we're doing something on the side that I think will take off, and generally that works out really well.
You do have, like, I don't know, you have inherent talent of knowing weird pockets of the internet that will get excited about a weird side thing we're doing. You were very adamant that the Columbo thing might take off.
Yes, I was.
The Columbo thing fucking took off, at least
Well,
for our metrics, you know? Like,
well, I had spent a week at Ben's, and the first weekend was all spent watching Columbo memes. So I was like, if I can market this correctly, this will work. And it did. It outperformed anything else that we've ever done, except me falling all over my words on TikTok.
watching Columbo and you thought that would, like, if we marketed it correctly, it would do
No,
well?
I will defend Columbo a lot because I think
There's nothing wrong with Columbo. What I'm saying is, who the fuck in the year of our Lord 2022 on the
the
internet?
internet,
Why? Who are
because
these people?
it was like a big at the beginning of the
Geriatrics finally
pandemic.
found the internet?
No, it was the Zoomers. For whatever reason, at the beginning of the pandemic, Columbo figuring things out in weird worlds got crazy. There was a Star Wars one, there was a Death Note one that somebody made. It got like... And the reason why is because the show Columbo has such a weird ending every time, where he's able to very entertainingly bring together pieces of him acting like a doofus the entire episode and show, no, I wasn't being a doofus, I was specifically setting you up. And I'm telling you, don't watch any episode of Columbo except the last 5 minutes, because the last 5 minutes always hit, unless it's the one with Kirk. But so I knew people had been fucking around with this, and I was like, I think this might pop off. And it did, and it was exciting. So, I don't know. Every once in a while I'll stumble on something that'll inspire me. Welcome to Marketing Stars every week, forever, every week, forever.
Wish I had the same energy for anything.
Well, I'm not excited for this podcast, but I am excited for this podcast. It's like, there's so many things that annoy me about doing this, specifically watching the movies. But when I get an idea in my head, I go all out. There's only one project that I've ever wanted to do on this show that I did not come through. I was going to do set to Wii music, like every image that I've made, and it just became so tedious I gave up. That's the only one I've ever given up on. And then there's one that's half done that I'll get back to eventually, but it required a little more work than I was willing to do after doing a full week of work. But yeah, it's just, I enjoy editing. I don't enjoy sitting and editing a purely audio episode. That's a little bit of a drag for me.
Well, yeah, that's the and that's the interesting thing with this podcast sometimes is, like, you'll bring it up every once in a while, and it's not something I see because I don't really look at those metrics. Like I look at the YouTube metrics, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But you have all of the data coming from like these streaming services, like the actual podcast
Yeah.
services that we're on, and we get way more downloads and listens on those than we do the YouTube copy.
Podbean's way better, yeah.
Yeah,
Podbean is way, way better, but
crazy because I
YouTube
didn't
gets...
I didn't know Podbean was a thing until we were doing this show. I had literally never heard of it before. I didn't realize so many people were using it.
Neither did I. I didn't know anything about Podbean. I just researched and found it and realized it was the cheapest thing that we could do. I love Podbean. Thank you, Podbean. Podbean...
Not sponsored by Podbean, but...
Not sponsored by Podbean, but this show is basically brought to you by Podbean because it wouldn't be happening without them.
Podbean do sponsorships. I feel like at this point that's feasible.
There's a partnership system, but we haven't. I've applied to it and we haven't heard back.
Hey, Podbean.
And also, I don't think we're ever going to blow up, so I think we're safe.
You want to knock on some wood or something? Or what? 100 views on a video and we shit ourselves.
Yeah.
I always, like, anytime I get one of those messages from you where it's like all caps and it's like, what happened? I'm like, oh no. Has it happened? Is it the event?
Yeah, I don't... It's always like 3 days after something blows up, too. It's weird. It's like... And every once in a while, one random episode will just blow up. And it's so strange. Hi, welcome to Behind the Scenes of Star Wars Every Week Forever, every week forever. So...
Hey, look, when there's only two of us here, we do a strange format. You got it last week, you're getting it this week, alright? There's two of us.
What are you talking about last week? I was here last week.
Y'all
were
real
weird.
You
brought weird vibes last week.
You weren't feeling the best, so you were a little quiet. You know, it was basically Lawrence and I running the show.
Yeah, it was a real weird week. That's for sure. It was a weird week. That's for certain.
I don't know if this can be in the show. Well, we talked about it, I think, a little bit when the Columbo one did blow up. We got kind of a shout out from like a smaller channel to a degree.
Yeah.
Which, looking at it now, is very funny because I have this conspiracy theory that we somehow killed this guy's channel because has not posted since he left that comment. He had been posting at least monthly or whatever, and then literally since he left that comment 2 months ago, no new video. I'm like, bro, what happened? You alright?
No comment.
You alright, man? What's going on?
And we got like a solid... This is so funny to say out loud. We got like a solid 6-7 subscribers from that.
Hey, look, by our metrics, that is massive exponential growth.
Hey, if you want to, if you're listening on Podbean, you want to go to the YouTube. We're one away from 35 subscribers.
Yeah, and you get some fun stuff. There's compilations on there. There's fun little visual edits. You know, it's a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah. The YouTube gets some fun shorts. And it gets the compilations first, and then I upload them later to Podbean, and they do very well.
YouTube is like the platform we
YouTube's my passion project.
Yeah, YouTube's fully the passion project. It's the thing we would like to devote more time to if we actually had the audience, you know. There's a lot more fun stuff that can be done on a video or visual podcast. I don't know that we would ever do video podcast. That's
No.
People need to look at my dumb face.
No.
It would be a really fun progression because like I was not clean shaven, but I had much shorter facial hair when this podcast started. And now I look fully like I'm going into just pure madness.
Well, until recently, I downloaded every Skype session. I don't do it anymore because that's not how we record anymore. If you've noticed that we have a better podcast now in terms of audio, it's because we figured some shit out. But I used to download every episode, and it was fun to just look through the thumbnails and see the varying degrees of giving a shit that we had. Like, there was a long period where I was looking better on the show, and I was feeling good about myself, and then no camera for a while. And watching Chris's beard get longer, and
Just full Mad Sea Captain.
Ben's
Ben looking different every week that we
every
record,
week.
every single week. It's like he's a fucking spy or something. Like he's got something different going on for some reason. I don't know how he gains and loses hair so quickly. I don't want to talk about Star Wars. I just want to put that out there because it's been a while since we
Yeah.
talked about Star Wars on this Star Wars podcast. I don't want to do it.
I mean, well, there's one thing that we contractually have to do. We have to talk about Jar Jar.
We do have to talk about Jar Jar. What we did do is discuss the many ways that we hadn't even thought of that Jar Jar would have inevitably just been like there for comedic purposes. So you get a lot of Jar Jar wandering around, and also as Lawrence pointed out, Jar Jar knows who Anakin is. So there would be the running bit throughout the movie of Jar Jar almost telling Luke who Darth Vader is, and then something happening that causes him to not tell him. Like, I had said at one point, they're in the trash compactor and everything's coming in, and Jar Jar's like, no, Luke, you should know your father. And then just gets, yoinked
Jar Jar
down by
doesn't
the
know.
fucking... Well, I'm sure Jar Jar would know.
No, Jar Jar was not present for the transition from Anakin to Vader.
Well, yeah, but, Yoda knows. And as we established, Jar Jar was on Dagobah with Yoda.
Oh, fuck, you're right. Yeah, he would know because of this.
Was sent out to go shepherd Luke to Dagobah, and,
Is it like... There's a character named Looker in Pokemon Gen 4, and his whole job is to be a detective that just shows up after everything happens. Is that Jar Jar the entire original trilogy? He just will appear out of nowhere, totally late, and then take off with no explanation. So he's on Hoth, but he gets there late, right ahead of Vader's coming fleet, and then he helps a little bit there, and he takes off right after, and then you see him again on Cloud City, but he gets arrested behind the scenes before Vader happens, and you just never see him again in the movie. Oh, that would lead to a fun Jar Jar duel. Jar Jar and Vader face off.
That's, before Luke is able to... He's a little farther up the catwalk, so he's not able to just tumble off, and it looks like Vader's gonna, strike him down. Jar Jar drops from the ceiling.
You so breaking me's a heart, little Annie.
You so gone far now, Annie.
The man you knew as little Annie is dead. I killed him.
How you said that's off your son's hand? He's got one of those stupid little energy shields, and he's I'm basically pitching a new version of Kingdom Hearts where Jar Jar essentially fills the Goofy spot. He's just got the shield.
Can we get Jar Jar screaming Sephiroth? I would like that very much.
Have they done Star Wars and Kingdom Hearts yet?
No, they distinctly haven't done Star Wars or Marvel, and nobody knows why. There's theories that Kingdom Hearts 4 might have it because they're doing this weird thing where there's an additional fantasy world, but the fantasy world resembles real life. So
now
it's complicated, but I think that's a setup to use Star Wars and Marvel.
I haven't played a Kingdom Hearts game since the first. I did play the first one many, many moons ago. Yeah. But
Kingdom Hearts 1 is a wonderfully self-contained story. Everything after that gets real convoluted.
I will absolutely play Kingdom Hearts 4 if Jar Jar Binks is featured. And only if Jar Jar Binks is featured.
I'll let you know.
Square Enix, balls in your court. Jar Jar.
Square Enix. Well, I think the setup for Kingdom Hearts 4... I actually bother my friends and try to make them laugh with Kingdom Hearts lore all the time. They usually get a kick out of me talking about Kingdom Hearts for whatever reason, because nobody I know plays Kingdom Hearts, except friend of the show Kev, who has not completed most of them. I think they're setting up in Kingdom Hearts 4 to set up Marvel and Star Wars stuff. I'm hoping some small Final Fantasy stuff because they've always been weird with that, and I'm hoping. But yeah, I think if there's a chance of them doing Star Wars, it'll be in the next game.
At this point, if they do Final Fantasy in the next one, they've done all the older established characters at this point, so it's going to be like newer Final Fantasy characters. And at
Yeah,
that
well,
point,
they
I could play Kingdom Hearts 4 and one of those new Final Fantasy characters would pop up and I would just think it's a Kingdom Hearts character. I am so tuned out of Final Fantasy at this point. It's like this big reveal,
I'm
this person stands up and I'm like, I have no idea who this is. Okay, I assume this is a new character.
I'll never forget. Hi, welcome to Kingdom Hearts every week forever. That would drive me way more nuts.
The show.
I remember when in like 2000, I was at my neighbors who were older, and they gave me a copy of PlayStation Magazine, and I saw like the hints of Kingdom Hearts there, and I didn't have a lot of video games before the PlayStation 2, but I had some. Like, I had some hand-me-downs, so I had Final Fantasy 4 and 6, which were 2 and 3 in America on SNES, and then I had Final Fantasy 8 on PlayStation, and I eventually got Final Fantasy 7.
I will die on the hill that Final Fantasy VIII is better than 7. I'm the only person on this planet who thinks that, and I am very well aware.
I mean, I would say it's not as good, but I think that game is criminally underrated. Like, criminally underrated.
Final Fantasy VIII all the time, and it makes me so mad. Like, how could you shit on this weird fucking... I don't even know how to describe Final Fantasy VIII. It's one of the more batshit of the Final Fantasy games, I think.
It's weirdly interesting because it's so up to interpretation in such a fascinating way. But Final Fantasy X was the first one I beat because I did. It's the same thing with Pokemon. I did not understand grinding as a concept. We're not talking about Final Fantasy X. It's my favorite game of all time, and I know you hate it. We're not going to.
I respect it. I respect that. I understand the merits. I know it's not like I wouldn't say I think it's inherently bad. I don't think it's a bad game. I just don't like it at all. I hated that game so much.
I find that a lot of the nitpicks of that game fully misunderstand the plot, is what I'll say. But I love that game. I love Final Fantasy VI. 7 and 8, I'll take any day.
Feel as though
the only Final Fantasy games that I haven't finished are 2, 3, and 9.
9.
I don't know what it is about 9.
9 is also criminally
but I've
underrated.
never finished it.
9 is an incredible game.
I have no idea why, but I've never finished it.
Might be visually my favorite Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I would rather talk about Final Fantasy than Star Wars.
Me too. But the reason why I brought up Final Fantasy is because the concept in this Kingdom Hearts thing is the main character basically died. Like, Sora died. So this fantasy world, it's like a weird between worlds where ideas that people make up, fantasy that they make up becomes real. Like, this literally, the entire concept of where Sora is came from fucking Toy Story. The Toy Story level in Kingdom Hearts 3, because they had a video game that they played, and Sora looked like the main character to the T-Rex. I don't remember the T-Rex's name. And then they went to that... Yeah, I think it's Rex.
Yeah.
And that's literally the world he's in. So the idea, I think, is to try to use other Disney properties, because they're running out of Disney properties to use. So I think that's the plan. And I think my hope is that because of that, you could do like a fantasy world where these already established Kingdom Hearts characters that are usually from Hollow Bastion or whatever it's called after it gets Radiant Garden.
Sure.
You get like little parts, and because of that, you might get Star Wars and you might get Marvel, which I just think it would be deeply funny to see Sora in any world. It'll be funny in the because I don't think Goofy and Donald will be in parts of that game, but I just think it would be deeply, deeply funny if anytime that Donald and Goofy say the name of a semi-serious character from a non-Disney property, one of the funniest laughs I ever get is in Kingdom Hearts 2, where Donald Duck screams, "Shower and Sephiroth!" It's so funny to me, and I can't explain why. It is so deeply funny to me. That's not far apart from the part of the game where they kill off Goofy, but they don't actually. And Mickey Mouse wears death on someone and runs off. And Goofy comes back later on because they had a rock drop on his head and he was like dead, and you do this like terrific like run through millions of bad guys, and at the end Goofy just comes back and is like, yeah, I've been hit in the head worse.
Part of Kingdom Hearts written by R.A. Salvatore?
No, but it does feel like it, doesn't it? It's just so in established Kingdom Hearts canon, Goofy has CTE is what we learned from that scene, like 1,000%. Because like he literally gets knocked out by a rock hitting his head. And in order to bring him back and prove that he didn't die, he just says, well, I've been hit in the head worse, gosh. And it's like, you have had some bad concussions, buddy, and you should lay down. No, we're going to go to the end here, and we're going to fight Sephiroth. What? He has a concussion.
How many hoops do I have to jump through, and how many corporate accusations have to happen for AEW to be under the same umbrella as Disney so I can get Goofy and Bryan Danielson comparing concussions?
Oh, God, don't encourage them.
Who owns AEW these days?
Done, like,
Warner?
Rick and Morty and House of Dragon crossovers.
It's like, it's WB now, right?
Yeah, it's...
Whatever Warner Brothers is currently.
I know this isn't something we should be talking on in the podcast, but it's very funny because if there's a streaming service that AEW would be on, and by extension Ring of Honor, it would be HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
Or Discovery Plus, but nobody uses Discovery Plus, so I assume...
HBO Max is not going to be a thing anymore here pretty soon. So.
Well, that's kind of been revoked now. It's going to be a thing.
Oh, good.
They're just dividing up what'll be on HBO Max and what'll be on Discovery Plus.
Maybe I will get a third season of Warrior after all.
But it's very funny to me because there are talks about doing a bundle, like the Disney bundle, with Peacock, which is very, very funny to me because then you will have both of the competing wrestling companies under one subscription umbrella.
That would be very funny. If
something breaks that deal, I think that, yeah.
Well, that would be a really interesting thing, and I could honestly see that as being something Peacock, because, like, I know the WWE stuff has been great for Peacock.
Yeah.
And, like, they're moving into football and stuff now, so, like, I could see them going out and being like, yeah, we should diversify our live sports offerings. Here's another wrestling show. Watch, the Forbidden Door is going to be broken open by Peacock, the streaming service that I shit on for a year when it was announced until I found out that I had to pay them $5 a month to continue watching The Office.
Oh, yeah.
Which, hey,
yeah.
Well, Peacock, it's actually a great service. They've got all the extended episodes of The Office now with, like, shit I have never seen before. It's a pretty decent service. I don't have to pay for the WWE Network anymore. It's great.
We have lost the plot. We have lost the plot so bad.
Peacock, can I interest you in a shitty Star Wars podcast in a undefined genre that nobody interacts with?
It would literally be illegal for them.
Illegal for them.
Because it regards a property that they don't own.
It's a podcast. I don't think...
Yes, historically, podcasts are on streaming services.
Yeah. Hey, Peacock, you want to break new ground? You want to make us the first podcast on a streaming service?
You want to get sued?
Do you want to get sued for the
by
sake
Disney?
Of... I'm saying, come on, Disney Plus. Give us money. Put us on Disney Plus. You have a mature audiences category now.
We'll end up on Hulu. That's what's going to happen. We'd end up on Hulu.
I have Hulu also. That's whatever.
I don't have Hulu.
I know Ben also has Hulu because Ben's on my Hulu. I think I've told that story on the podcast, how I fucked with Ben's Hulu algorithm.
Maybe. I don't know. I definitely own all of my streaming services. You can't prove otherwise.
Set up a new streaming service profile that asks what you're interested in. So I just uh, I checked the category for like all the telenovelas and like pro wrestling, and um, I never heard about any kind of weird suggestions though, so I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping Ben would open up his profile on the Hulu and it would just all be in Spanish and just all
I
Spanish
know
soap
that.
operas.
I know that at one point, Ben and I share Disney Plus, except we don't. But say that we do for this conversation. And for the sake of argument, let's say that there's many people on his Disney Plus. I know that one of the 6 or 7 people went to a random episode of a random Disney original TV show, like 3 seasons in, episode like 17 or whatever, played it to like the middle of it, and then left it be. And Ben has been trying to figure out who that was for a year and a half. They didn't watch any of the other episodes from the TV show. It was just this one episode. I think it was the weird streaming one where it was like 2 people that make a YouTube channel, and then one of the bad Paul people was on it. I think that's what it was. It was just one random episode somewhere deep in there, and Ben has been confused by it. In this theoretical idea, Ben has been confused by it for 2 years.
I was talking.
And I wish I could say I did it. I wish I could say I did it.
Somebody about one of the bad Paul brothers the other day, and I think the way I described it was like, yeah, like a lot of bad people, he's pretty good at wrestling.
No comment. No comment.
Which, you know, I got
Will Ospreay for YouTubers.
I got no problem with him being good at wrestling, because I've just made my peace at this point that most wrestlers are just horrible people.
Let's go through my notes here.
Oh, you mean talk about Star Wars on this Star Wars podcast?
Yes. I've decided it's deeply funny that Lando throws a fit when the Falcon doesn't work at the end, because the only reason why the Falcon would have been actually fixed and fueled by Lando would be because he planned to steal the Falcon after he fucked over everybody. Literally the only reason why he would have had that actually fueled and fixed up is because he planned to steal it. That was the only reason.
Those got and I don't know. I don't know where I'm coming down on this current thought that just formed in my head. Lando
we backtrack on ideas all the time. It's fine.
I'm trying to figure out in real time how I feel about this. Lando either has one of the best or worst written character arcs in a single movie of all time.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, an Empire?
It's like... He starts off completely screwing Han over, which, fair. Him and Han have clearly had some shit happen.
Yeah.
And then, he just, with very little... what did Lando think was going to happen handing Han over to the Empire? Because, he sees him get frozen in carbonite or whatever, and then, and that's when he's like, I'm good again, I will help you with this,
Well, let's be honest. Much like many decisions in this movie, the reason why he turns is not because Han Solo gets trapped in carbonite. It's because he's horny for Leia. This movie has a habit of making the original trilogy in general, making thought processes and decisions be made by the level of horniness you are to another character.
Yeah.
That's at least how I've always seen it, because Lando wants to screw Carrie Fisher. And
specifically Carrie Fisher.
I don't know why I said Carrie.
Not Princess Leia.
I don't know why I said that.
No, watches Han get frozen in carbonite, and much like Obi-Wan Kenobi, he reaches omnipotence and can see past Star.
And it's funny too, because there's a weird scene in the original script of Episode 9 before JJ took it, where there's a weirdly horny scene between Leia and Lando, and it was real uncomfortable. So that just fuels my theory that Lando wanted to have sex with Leia, and Leia was just like, no, not interested.
I love that there's varying degrees of weird arcs that George planned to have for Lando and Leia. You have that, and you also have the clone thing with Leia.
Well, that one was Colin Trevorrow.
What?
Yeah, In the original Colin Trevorrow Episode 9 script, there's a weird moment where Leia goes to Lando for help, and they get real close and close to a
Oh,
kiss, and then Lando
oh.
says can't help, and then he helps anyway.
I thought you were talking about the clone thing. I was
Oh
like,
no.
how the fuck old is Colin Trevorrow?
Yes, Colin Trevorrow helped write Episode 6.
He almost helped write episode 6. Yeah, Jesus.
Star Wars has been ducking him for decades.
Oh man, Danny and I got a pretty good laugh the other night because we're going back and rewatching that '70s show because it's finally on Peacock. It's on Peacock, so it's finally on a streaming service again because it hasn't been for years now.
Last time it was
Um,
on like Netflix, I think.
yeah, Netflix took it off like 3 years ago, and it hasn't been on anything since. Because Danny and I have been trying to go back and rewatch because she's never seen it, so
Oh, okay.
we've been trying to watch it for years now, literally. Especially because the new one is coming out soon.
What? Wait,
Um,
what?
yeah,
What?
they're doing like with like Eric and Donna's kid, and like
Their
Red
Girl
and Kitty
Meets
are gonna be on it,
Worlding
and
it?
everybody's yeah, it's gonna be on Netflix. As long as they don't fuck it up, I'm pretty excited for it. I don't know. There will be one notable exception to the cast.
Well, I mean, I would hope there's two.
But yeah, we got a pretty good laugh the other night out of the Star Wars episode
Oh,
when they
yeah.
all go see
What a
Star Wars for the
mini.
first time because uh, um, just all the various references of Kelso wanting to go see it every single day and Jackie getting annoyed with him. And he's like, "How some line to the effect of like, how can I ever get sick of Star Wars? It's the greatest thing ever." And I'm just like head in hands. My wife is fucking chuckling from the couch.
It's like me when Revenge of the Sith came out, when I snuck in to see it. My parents didn't know, and for weeks after, I would ask, can we go see it like this week? Can we go see it like? And they got so fucking annoyed by it. The same thing happened with Dark Knight. I didn't see Dark Knight in theaters because of it. Because I was so annoying about it.
uh, I saw Dark Knight in theaters.
I did
I
not.
saw Dark Knight in theaters with my dad.
I did not. From like 2009 to like 2019, I saw most things I wanted to see in theaters for like 10 years. And then the pandemic happened, and I'm like, I'm never seeing a movie in a theater again.
I've seen for early parts of my life at least, and for like the first few MCU movies, I saw like all of them in theaters with my dad. The one that's always really funny to me that I always remember going to see with my dad because it was very random. We went to see Blade Trinity in theaters
Oh.
together, young when that movie came out. Um, fucking love that movie. It's a great movie. But
Blade
like
movies
it's
are
one of those
good.
ones that always sticks with me when I see it on like TV and I'm like, "Oh, I went to the theater to see that with my dad." And I'm like, "That was a weird movie for us cuz like we didn't go see the other ones in theaters." It's just it strikes me as like
As a
that's a movie
little
my dad
kid,
wanted to
too.
see and I don't remember when that movie came out, but I wasn't like young.
It's like
I was
2003,
like
2004, I want to say.
I was like 10 maybe.
Weird decision.
Yeah, it was just it's very no, it couldn't have been 2003.
Let me check. Blade Trinity. 2004.
2000. Oh my god.
I forgot Triple H was in that movie. I've got in the box of like 100 movies, 150 movies I got my mom got for $50. I ended up getting the Blade movies from it. It was one of the few things I picked out. I should rewatch them.
Well, I was like 10.
Yeah, weird
That was a
decision, Dad.
weird call. That was a weird decision. Hey, Dad, I know you don't watch the show that much anymore, but hey, Dad, that was a real weird one.
Well,
I mean, it's fine, but holy shit, that's
not to
hilarious.
put my parents on blast, but I recently talked about Barney on the show. I think if I didn't, it was definitely to Ben. It was definitely to Ben and his roommate. I explained to my roommates. I think I said everybody was a Barney kid at one point. But I remember going to see the Barney movie as a little kid. I went into it was on a drive-in theater. I went to the bathroom and I came out and they were doing like a musical number with Barney, and I remember looking up at like 3 or 4 and going, I don't think I'm a Barney kid anymore. But I bring that up because it was a double feature. The drive-in where I lived was a double feature every time. The double feature was Barney and one of the Hannibal Lecter movies. So my parents...
Well, that makes...
So my parents were trying to get us to fall asleep the entire time. And they quickly realized 10 minutes into the movie we were not asleep and we were watching this. Okay, we're going home. Guess we're not watching this movie.
It's really funny that you got there because you said double feature and it made me immediately think of another questionable parenting decision, this time from my mom. My parents are separated, so I had different, unique parenting styles happening. I remember going when the Brandon Routh Superman movie came out.
Oh my god, I really loved that at the time. I don't know why, but I think it's come back into chic. I remember, people like it now.
Yeah, it was a pretty good movie.
I liked it at the time,
all things considered.
But I also liked my favorite original Batman movie was Batman and Robin at the time. So I had no taste. Anyway,
yeah. But it was a double feature. I remember going with my mom, my stepdad, various step siblings. We had a big car, and I remember the double feature they chose for some reason. Apparently, it's a common thing because I thought this was weird. And still think it's weird, but I didn't know they packaged children's movies with horror movies often. It was that, and then it rolled right on over into, I think it was like a reboot of The Omen, which is a really funny double feature.
Well, I think drive-ins do that a lot because they think, all right, we'll put on a movie for the kids, and then once the kids fall asleep in the car, we'll put something on for the adults. So I miss drive-ins. I do.
I also miss drive-ins.
I mean, they were a really shitty way to experience movies, but I do miss them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I really do miss drive-ins, and they don't exist at all anymore.
I think there's one somewhere in the area up here still.
Like you can find them hidden sometimes.
There's one that was here that I went to as a kid as recently as 2018. But I can't say. Let's find out, because I'm actually curious. I know we're doing a podcast, but I want to know.
Abandoned drive-in theater for most of my childhood, on the outskirts of my hometown. And then they bulldozed the lot and put a quick check gas station in there.
It's still open!
And when they were doing so...
Sorry, my drive-in's still open, and that was exciting. Continue.
They were clearing the lot that this abandoned drive-in had been in for, I don't know, a decade and a half at least by this point, right. If not longer. The little concessions building in there. Yeah, they found a dead body when they were clearing the lot to put this gas station in.
Oh.
Which is a surprising story when you're from my hometown. It wasn't so surprising. We were like, you mean one? There was one? They found one body?
This is incredible highs and lows. I think... It would have been interesting. I feel like there was a chance for drive-ins to come back during the pandemic. It feels like that would have been a good time.
Weirdly, they kind of did.
Did they?
But not as movies. So Bert Kreischer did a whole outdoor stand-up comedy tour that he did as a drive-in thing. Where people would drive up to the lot or whatever, music festival areas they were doing it, and you had the stage. And you had people driving in to this field for it, and he was doing comedy shows out in
Yeah, a certain other comedian did that as well. Now that I think about it,
he did, yeah. Yep.
One of the biggest disappointments of my life, that man.
Pretty much. I've had the last decade or so has been a real hit to people I used to really like, Fucking Dave Chappelle, you got your J.K. Rowling, you got just a whole lot of people. The list goes on and never ends and never will end, apparently. Hey, can we levy some rare praise to George Lucas for, other than some of the questionable stuff we've shit on him about, not overtly just putting some real shit opinions out into the world and
I've gotten to the point where I assume everybody's guilty until proven innocent. It's a rough world out there.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. That's what I say all the time. Kevin Smith, fucking Chill out.
The closest that to a parasocial relationship that I've had with anyone in years was truly mourning Kevin Conroy's death, like mourning it hard. Like I
Yeah.
I cried like several times watching like stuff that he did. I'm replaying the Arkham games now. I haven't played the third one ever. Stuff like that, and there's no adaptation outside the comics that gets Batman's empathy, I feel, and that
He's the best Batman.
yeah.
There, I mean, it's like, and I've said this to people, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't count. He was just the voice. It doesn't matter." He was
fuck off.
in the same way. Mark Hamill was the best Joker.
Well, I just will always believe that comics are the greatest medium ever created. I truly believe that with my heart and soul, but I also think that anything that is episodic is usually better than movies. Anything that gives enough breadth to tell a story is usually, not always, but usually good. So that hurt pretty bad. Thank you, Kevin Conroy. Now, before we end the podcast, I actually have 2 notes that are left, but there's one that I really want to talk about. The one I don't want to talk about is, it was a question that I made that I really don't care about the answer to. It was, would Han have stayed to help the rebellion if he didn't have the hots for Leia? That's one of them.
No.
Absolutely not, no. He wouldn't have, no. Again, in the original trilogy, people are compelled by their dicks and nothing else.
Yeah.
Why does R2-D2 hate Yoda so much? I was watching the scene where Luke and R2 and Yoda meet, and it struck me pretty hard that they're literally fighting over a piece of bread, and R2 knows this man. Knows he's putting up some kind of act.
Can I posit the theory simply that the simplest answer would be maybe R2 was trying to get him to drop the act, but also R2
is a shit
in a lot of ways was, I think what I'm about to say may be headcanon. It might not be. There might be no actual like lore evidence of this. I think R2 was a fairly close confidant of Anakin Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anakin probably talked to R2 quite a bit. Yoda was a dick.
Yes.
Yoda, big reason for Anakin becoming what Anakin became. So, I think it's pretty fair for R2 to not like Yoda very much.
You make a good point. You make a good point.
Like, honestly, I like Obi-Wan not as much, but I could see R2 maybe not being particularly fond of Obi-Wan. But Yoda for sure, I guarantee R2's like, nah, fuck that dick. Like,
yeah, I can see it. I also, because you've said this, I want the mini scenes that you imply happened where Anakin just sits in a room bitching to R2-D2. I want that. Because I get the feeling it's going to come across as Kylo talking to Darth Vader's head in very similar ways.
like,
and it would break the mystique
like
of the character in such wonderful ways.
Like, see, I think I went a far sadder route with it, where it's just Anakin sitting, like, venting to R2, like...
Yeah.
Because Anakin's not good at communicating unless he's trauma dumping on Padme.
That's strangely valid. It's like talking to your pet about your problems.
Yeah, like, Anakin, like, head in hand, sad, feeling comfortable enough to talk to R2, and only R2, you know? Like...
You want to know how pathetic I am? This has been an episode of Side Tangents. Every time I think... I'm going to bring up something that nobody on this podcast is going to be surprised by. Anytime I think of, like, someone talking to their pet, I think of the second Animorphs book.
There it is. I'm sitting here fucking in anticipation, like what I do when I hear a Ben fucking mention coming up. I knew it was going to be Animorphs.
So
Knew it was gonna be Animorphs.
it's one of my favorite books of the entire thing, and we've had many side tangents, so I figure it won't hurt. So in that book, a character named Rachel has a friend that is she was very close with. And through the process, they've kind of fallen out because she's been going through a rough time. And throughout the episode, they find out that her father, who is the, I think, vice principal of the school, has a yerk inside his head. So he's been very distant from her, and she can't understand why he's being controlled by something else and a creature that is not his father. Little slug in his brain. So she attempts to befriend her again. It doesn't work out so well because she's going through a rough time. So the secondary plan that they have is her morph into her cat and have her friends capture the cat outside, put her in a pet thing, so that she can go inside, take a look around the place, because they figured that Dad must have a way to contact the Yerks. And Rachel's pretty much going in there for her friend, and she doesn't say this out loud. There's a really sad scene as she's supposed to leave, because there's a rule in Animorphs where you can't stay in morph for more than 2 hours. If you do, you're stuck. There's a really sad scene where she's like at an hour 45, and she sees her friend crying in her room. And she's faced with the decision of staying a cat forever and staying there to comfort her, or leave and save herself. And it comes real close, but she decides to stay with her and just let her trauma dump on the cat. And it's real sad, the expression of her just saying, keep purring, just like give her as much as you can. It's deeply sad, and every time I think of that moment, because it's such a heartbreaking scene. Anyway,
What I'm hearing from this is the galaxy could have been saved if someone just got Anakin a cat.
I mean, R2 is his cat, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I never forget it, because it's her saying, both of my parents feel so cold and they're not giving me attention and they ignore me all the time, and it's just so sad. It's so sad, but I digress. We had many tangents this episode.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Talk about Star Wars?
I think we needed Ben. We needed Ben to guide us. What we've learned this episode is Ben is our guide.
Well, what we've learned this episode, and this episode specifically, because, you know, it's the only time we've ever had just two people on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
The show gets real hard to drive when there's two people and just two people.
You think
need
it would
a third
be easier.
One tangent to pull it back. If just two people, then we go down tangents. And it just doesn't stop, and the tangent train never stops.
Never stops, baby.
Choo-choo.
With that, Animorphs and Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy and whatever other shit we talked about talk.
Some Star Wars thrown in there.
Some Star Wars.
Briefly on this Star Wars podcast.
And drive-in theaters. Man, the Zoomers
Drive-in
are really not
theaters.
going to like this episode.
Showing our age
Yeah.
tonight is what we're doing.
Yeah. 230-ish people. You're not quite there yet, but you're getting close.
I'm about to be.
This has been Star Wars Every Week Forever. Thank you so much for listening. Ben, we need you back. Never drink coffee again. Good night.
I get Ben one of those little concentrated coffee shots and mail it to him.
One of
And
the
be
espresso
like,
shots.
"All right. Yeah, drink this right before we start recording."
I think he might die. I'm telling you, it was scary to watch.
You chug this. I need you to shotgun this Bang energy drink before we start recording.
If you enjoyed that episode, why not like and subscribe? Also, share it with a couple friends. Bring them into this hellscape that we've done to ourselves. You can catch brand new episodes every single Wednesday on Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, pretty much every other platform you get your podcasts on. If you'd like to extend the suffering, you can catch us over on twitter.com at SWEWF. We post direct links to brand new episodes every week as soon as we upload them, and you can catch the occasional other dumb Star Wars take, and who wouldn't want that? Catch you guys later.